Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. This is a big one. This is How to Beat the Spider, Episode 2. And this episode is called Pull Off Its Legs. This might end up being two-parter because it's going to be quite a lot of information that's coming over here. But basically what I want to do is build on my last spider video by going into a bit more detail around the sort of champions you need, the sort of builds that you need to be able to take the spider down. Let's go, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off then by talking about strategy. And the strategy changes dramatically when you move from kind of beginning, mid-game into end-game. And I would say stages 1 to 14 are the beginning to mid-game for Spider. So the style of kill has to change completely. So let's start off then with early game, stage 1 to 14, early to mid-game I guess. Now, what you need to do in this phase of the game is you need to basically pick champions that are going to do AOE damage. The idea is stage 1 to 14, you get yourself through the spider by continuously nuking spiderlings and nuking the boss at the same time. Debuffs are useful in this stage. So if you've got things like decreased defense, decrease defense, weaken, decrease attack, they're all useful, but try and get it on an AOE scale so that you're actually just continuously nuking down those spiderlings and the main boss at the same time. If you've got champions in there that can do turn meter control, that is helpful as well. We'll go into that in more detail soon. But the idea is you want to be able to outspeed the main spider so that you're basically outspeeding the spider whilst nuking spiderlings. So for these champions, how should you build them? As a sort of sweeping statement here, and guys, comment below. I know I got it wrong. The sweeping statement is, at this stage of the game, you're probably going to want to have crit rate gloves on, HP percentage chest, and speed boots as your kind of main set of stats. What does that do? It means that you're going to crit, and crits hit harder than normal hits. You're going to stay alive because you've actually got some health, and you're going to go fast because you're wearing speed boots. That's the idea. How would it make up the team? I would look to have 1 speed champion, 3 or 4 nukers, and then either none or 1 support champion. And again, we're going to go into styles of champions soon. So when we then ramp up and get to stage 15 becomes slightly different. Stage 15 onwards, and this gets more and more prominent as you get towards level 20, you're relying on single target damage or champions that do like max enemy HP damage. That's one kind of set of tactics. The second tactic is around HP burns, and that again you want AOE HP burn for that to be really effective. We'll go into that soon. Things like decreased defense and weaken really help, but you actually only really need it at this stage on the main spider. You don't need AOE anymore. AOE is useful because you can take the spiderlings down, but ultimately it's the main spider that you need to focus on here. Turn meter control becomes essential. The main spider goes quicker and quicker and quicker and has more health the further you get through the levels. And if you're not controlling that main spider's turn meter, then you will lose. Fact. Spiderlings control becomes a bit different. So things like AoE stuns, AoE freezes, AoE sleeps, anything which can control the spiderlings without you having to deal with them in terms of damage becomes more and more helpful on the later stages. And then champions that can kind of come in and do shielding, block debuffs, cleanses, anything like that in terms of support become really effective on stage 15 plus. Again, we're going to go into it as we get through the video. So how would I make up the team then? I would probably have one person who again is speed related. I'd have 2 support champions, and then I'd bring in 2 people for damage. And that's really like a mainstay for any style of spider team, whether you do an HP burn or single target nuke. That's the kind of way I'm thinking. It's like, who can I bring in who's going to keep my guys moving quickly? Who's going to be my support champions keeping people alive? Who's going to do my damage? And then within all of that, who's going to be reducing my turn meter? Because some people need dual roles. Okay, so that's the kind of general thoughts. That's the general strategy that I look to when I take over people's accounts. Let's go into some of the champions that can make this happen. So we're going to start then with this kind of stage 1 to 14. Who are some good champions that are worth discussing? These are in no particular order, but they pretty much go weaker, like rarity up to legendary, but that's not always the case. I've mixed a few in as I've done it. But what I've done here is I've called out a number of champions that can do this role, AOE nukes, and do it well. What I've then done on each of these different pages, I've just kind of highlighted who are my MVPs. So for these categories, who should you look for as someone that kind of is a bit of a game changer, or someone that's quite easy to build and can really make a difference? So in this instance, Shield Guard comes out to me as an MVP because he does a lot of damage, he's defense based, he decreases speed of the main spider, he's got his own turn meter fill within his kit, and he's got his own passive that removes debuffs every time he gets a turn. So for an uncommon hero, he's insanely good at this kind of stage 1 to 14 if you're struggling to pull stronger champions. Really good. I think Stu Gaming has done a couple of videos on him actually where he's used him for this, but really worthwhile taking a look at Shield Guard. All the 4 starter heroes can do this role really well. They've all got AoE damage and it hits hard, and they've all got their own kind of little bits of utility. If I had to call one of them out as a best spider champion, I'd probably go Aethel because she also brings a weaken, and weaken is actually really effective on stage 1 to 14. Weaken is the stronger of the debuffs between weaken and decreased defense on the early levels of the game. As you get to later levels of the game, decreased defense dramatically becomes the stronger debuff. So it flips as you move through the game. Some of the other heroes then to call out, Bellower, he's a void champion, he's a rare. He also brings decreased speed, decreased defense, decreased attack. Fantastic AoE spider champion for stages 1 to 14. We've got a few epics in here. Tenacia and Skullcrown are both insanely good at this. AoEs on all their abilities. Skullcrown's AoEs on all her abilities, and she brings a weaken. Tenacia's got AoE, and then she also brings healing to keep your team moving, so that's helpful. Miscreated Monster is just a beast. Anything spider. He does this job really well. We're going to see him again later when we talk about support champs. But yeah, he brings a shield, he brings a stun, and he is insanely good at just kicking out damage and keeping the spiderlings from hurting you. A couple of others then, so we've got some legendaries in there. Biggin, Ithos, Scartorsis. Scartorsis has come in as my second MVP. He's got a speed aura for dungeons. He's got a cleanse mechanic to get rid of those poisons. He brings increased attack and increased increased crits within his kit. Now, that becomes less effective as you get past stage 15. But for stage 1 to 14, it's insanely good because pretty much all the champs you're bringing in are attack-based champions. So if you've got increased attack and increased crit coming in with you, and speed and cleanse, he becomes an insane legendary for this stage of the game. And then I put Sylar in there as well. Again, lots of AoE damage. She's got reduced turn meter. She's got a decreased accuracy as well to try and stop them landing poisons on you. So this is a kind of grid of 16 champions. There's probably easy another 30 champions that I could have put on here, but the idea is the same. Bring 4 champions in with you that can do decent AoE damage, and then bring somebody in that's going to speed you up and support you. So let's go on then to general now. So this is going to be a sort of generalized who's a good support champion for speed, this top area. And then I'm going to start to focus more on levels 15 plus when it starts to become a bit different. Who could be a good champion to bring in with you to be able to deal with that content? So the first role that I talk about here is speed. Who's going to bring that speed? Who's going to keep your team moving and help you through this dungeon? Apothecary is, for me, the MVP in speed. Now, that's because of I guess, your chance to be able to get him, the kit that he brings. It doesn't mean he's the best champion in the whole game. For me, it's just MVP based on his rarity and the kit that he brings. So what does he do? He brings speed, he brings a speed buff, and he brings a turn meter boost. He's also got a heal on him, and he just keeps your team moving. So he's a really good champion. Haikatoon's another. She was very close, so she is free to play friendly. You get her as one of your rewards for, I think, logging in maybe 60 days, I think it is. She brings that same speed and turn meter control on your side, but she also reduces the turn meter of the enemy. So really, really good champion for Spider. I put in a couple of rares here, which perhaps might not be talked about that often, but Haruspex, not how sure you to say his name. He brings that same speed and turn meter boost. It's not the same quite level. I think it's a 15% speed boost instead of 30. So, but it's still strong. He also brings a revive ally. So in terms of that support role that's trying to keep your damage dealers in the game, he's very good for that early stage Spider. Diabolist is similar to that as well. So she brings speed, she brings turn meter boost. She also brings a reduced turn meter on the enemy. So for a farmable rare, she could be really essential for somebody that hasn't pulled the Apothecary, hasn't got the Haikatoon yet, but needs to move on with Spiders. So just a bit of a call out as another rare that can do the role. We've got a number of epics then. Gordorab, Golden Reaper, Frostbringer. They all bring their own style of speed. Gordorab brings Resurrect. He brings increased attack for your team as well. For me, he's better early game, falls off late game. Golden Reaper is probably the least effective because her kit is more offensive and less defensive, and I prefer my speed champion to bring a bit of defensive kit as well, but she's not bad. She does bring a decreased attack to the enemy, so the main Spider would hit for less. Frostbringer, for me, is if you haven't got one of the other kind of MVP style speed champs. She does have a defensive aura, which is helpful. She does bring increased attack, but again, for me, she's more of a speed champ if you're at that stage 1 to 14. After that, I think she falls off dramatically. I put Lysandra on here as well. She really is the best speed lead for this dungeon for me. She brings the speed, she brings the turn meter boost, she brings reduced turn meter twice to the enemy, an AOE version, and then a single target 100% reduction. That is huge in endgame Spider. If you pull Lysandra, she should be in your Spider team. Probably right through until the time where you're saying, actually, I now want to stop just doing this comfortably and start doing really fast runs. So Lysandra is insanely good for this dungeon. I put a few others on the side there. Arbiter, Lanarkis, Raglin, Scartorsis. They're all insanely good champions for this. I don't want to focus too much on the legendaries. I'm trying to focus more on the champions that might just be pulled every day. But if you've got any of those four, again, they should probably be in your team. They're all insanely good at Spider. So let's get on to debuff champions then. So once we've got the speed going, we need to debuff the Spider so that we do more damage. AOE debuff's more effective than single target, but when you get to that kind of end game, single target is also effective. So someone like a Razin is actually really good for anything sort of 15 to 19 in terms of levels. So who have we got then? We've got War Maiden. She's a farmable rare. She brings AOE decreased defense. So pretty good for that kind of levels 1 to 14. She can be used beyond that, but she starts to need much better gear to be able to do that. Madame Cerise is just kind of like insane. AOE decreased attack and defense on the same move, and it lands for 3 turns, so it's huge. So she can do that role and kind of keep all of the spiderlings under control, doing less damage to you and you doing more damage to them. Spider, I guess the name is apt, brings AOE decreased defense, AOE weaken. He also brings an extend buffs for your team, so he's a great debuffing champion for you. Tyrell comes in as my MVP in this category because he's got AOE decreased defense, but he also brings a decreased attack and a reduced turn meter. They're like 3 really important things for Spider, so that's why he kind of gets elevated there. And then we've got a few others here which kind of can do the role. So Valor and Marked are both good at the role, but they're nowhere near as good as the ones we've spoken about. Marked is good considering she's a rare. She also brings increased defense for your guys, and she brings a block debuffs, so you're not going to get those poisons landing on you. So that's actually really strong. And then probably the 2 strongest legendaries in this category are Venus and Dracomorph. They both bring AOE decreased defense and weaken. Venus, we'll talk about in terms of damage later, also brings an AOE burn, HP burn, which is the strongest ability in the game for Spider. So she's probably the strongest champion for Spider in the whole game. I've put a few more champions on here as well that can do this debuffing. So Fushan as a legendary, Ghostborn. Chris does it when he's attacked, and Tomb Lord is also really good for Spider. So that's my speed, that's my debuffs sorted. Then we say, right, well, who's going to support? Who's going to keep the team alive? Keeping the team alive is as important as doing the damage, guys. You know what? I play football. I'm a defender. I never get man of the match, but I play good football and I stop people scoring goals. These are the defenders. These guys are going to stop your guys going down. They're going to let your strikers do the work, yeah? I probably shouldn't be saying that because most of my audience is American. What should I be talking about? American football? What am I? I don't even know. I don't watch it. I don't know what I am. I'm the blocker or something. Whatever. I don't know what I'm called. Anyway, let's get into this. So support champions. Again, I've put up a number of different roles here. It's really difficult. So when my brain is working through who should be in this person's Spider team, there's a number of things going on. I'm thinking, who's going to bring the speed? Who's going to debuff? Who's going to be my support? And then who's going to do the actual damage? Yeah, so there's a number of roles. And you can actually build it in different ways as well. So for support champions, sometimes you might want out-and-out healers. Sometimes you might want someone that's just in there to cleanse. Sometimes you want a shield-based champion. And sometimes you want someone with something like ally protection. All of those things can work. You just need to make sure you've got a good balance throughout your team. So who have we got here then? In terms of a few rares to call out, we've got Spirit Host. Very easy, accessible rare. Good for that kind of stage 1 to 14. Brings increased attack. AOE Cleanse, which is huge. So just rip all of those poisons straight off your guys. And then she throws a block debuffs up as well. So poisons can't come back on. Really strong for spiders. Relic Pretender, she's one of my MVPs in this. For a rare, she's insane. She's got decreased attack. She's got a revive function. She's got an AOE cleanse and an AOE continuous heal. She's fantastic for Spider, for supports. Someone that was kind of a bit left field for me, but Metal Shaper, I don't know that much about him, but I do know that he brings an AOE shield for your team. It's great for spiders. He has a single target cleanse, which is actually really good for spiders. You don't need AOE cleanse. Single target is fine because generally the spiderlings focus one person. He brings a single target heal, and that same person, he increases their defense. So actually for a rare, he is really good as a support champion. Gator, another rare. It's got an AOE cleanse and also brings increased attack. He's not amazing, but again, he kind of fills the role if you need someone to do that. Acolyte is actually, he was close to an MVP for me. He's a rare. He's got an AOE cleanse. He's got his own inbuilt turn meter fill. He does decrease turn meter to the enemy, decreases 50% turn meter to the main boss, which is huge. And he's defense based, which means you can keep him alive. If you are struggling for spiders and you've got Acolyte sitting in your vault, like I bet 20% of us have got, he's actually somebody that you should think about building up. We've then got Steel Skull. Most people probably know Steel Skull, but he's got single target cleanse, single target heal, increased defense for your team, which is really strong, and AOE heal as well. So he brings poisons as well, but in terms of his support role, he does this job really well. Morsean Mage, Battle Sage, both very good champions as well. Both got AOE cleanses. That's the main reason they're in. Battle Sage has got a speed aura and a revive. Morsean Mage has got an AOE heal, albeit it's a small one. Increased defense and block debuffs. Both great champions for Spider. We've then got a number of legendaries. So Raglin, Scartorsis, Bad Alcazar. They're all in there really for that AOE cleanse and their ability to kind of keep the fight moving. My next MVP in this section is Miscreated Monster. It's basically a legendary for Spider. He brings a massive shield for your whole team. He brings ally protection, and he's got an AOE stun capability. Stun is one of the best debuffs that you can land on spiderlings when you get stage 15 plus. So he is insanely strong. A few more down the bottom then. Romero's quite good here. brings heals and shields. So Nick is excellent here, does a similar sort of thing to Miscreating Monster. Massive shields and support, unkillable debuff, unkillable buff, and AoE heals. Seducer is way underrated in Spider. He's actually really strong in Spider. He does an AoE decrease attack, so you're not going to take as many hits. He increases your team's defense, and he does a block debuff, so you're not going to take that poison. So he is actually insanely good for spiders. And then I've thrown Skullcrusher in there as well, mainly because he's got that counter attack ability and because he brings ally protection at the same time. Sometimes if I'm struggling to get through like stage 18, 19, Skullcrusher goes in and we get through it. He carries the team. Again, I've got some more down the right hand side there. Other champions that can do this job really well. Rearguard Sergeant, Duchess Alitu, Krisk, Blind Seer, Warlord, Valkyrie, I can't think what that guy's name is, and Lugan. They're all good champions. They've all got their own kind of either an ally protect or a shield or a heal or a block debuffs, something along those lines. But basically, they've all got a kit which will do the support role for you if you've got these champions. Obviously, most of them are legendaries. So again, maybe you haven't got them, but I think there's enough to choose from here to do the job to get it right. So we've got speed, we've got a debuff, we've got support. Now we need people that can reduce the turn meter of the enemy boss. It's really important. You'd hope that these also fill another role in your team. So some of these are going to be damage dealers, some of these are going to be support champions, and we'll get onto damage dealers in a minute. But if you don't have people that can reduce the turn meter and you're putting out a ton of damage, it doesn't even matter because you're going to lose. You will lose if you can't deal with the turn meter of the main spider. Every time the spider goes, it's going to heal, and you cannot stop that heal. The only way you can stop the heal is by slowing the spider down and reducing the turn meter of the spider. So these are the guys that can do it. Arminger is going to be my MVP here. He is an insane uncommon champion. He does damage based on enemy max HP, and his A1 reduces turn meter. I think it's based on crit, I'm not sure now, but it's insane anyway. I'll show you. I'm going to do some runs with him soon and do a guide because he's insane. I've just built one up. But yeah, he is as good as Coldheart in terms of doing the same job. Anyone who says to me, oh, of course I can't beat Spider, I haven't got a Coldheart. Think again. Armiger's your guy. He's defense based as well, so he can stay alive. He may even be better than Coldheart because you can keep him alive. So he's a really good champion here. Coldheart we probably all know about. She's got 100% reduction on her A3 of turn meter. That's why she's in there. Rearguard has got turn meter reduction on his A3. He's mainly in there for damage. We'll get to damage dealers in a minute, but he does do this role. We've got Crimson Slayer as a rare. She can come in. She's got AoE damage. She's got turn meter fill. And she's got reduced turn meter, a 50% reduction. Really good for a rare. Definitely, if you don't have the right champions, she can do a job for you here. Acolyte, we talked about already, but he also does his reduced turn meter. That's why he's in this section. Acolyte number 2, that should say Allure. She has got reduced turn meter on her A1. It's a bit ropey because it's random where she hits. She'll do one hit on the spider and then she'll hit the spiderlings. So she's not as good here, but she's not bad either. So if you've got her, she also brings decreased defense. She's got ignore defense on one of her abilities. I think she ignores 50% defense, so she's going to hit hard. And she's got an AoE sleep. That's why I put her in. Her reduced turn meter is a bit ropey, but it's not bad. Lightsworn here comes in for me as an MVP. I used him for my first Spider 20 clears. I still use him a lot if I see him in somebody's roster and they need help. He has got increased defense. He has got an AoE revive on death if you time it right. He's got decreased attack and decreased speed in his kit. And then he's got reduced turn meter on his A1. Don't discount him if you've got him in your roster and you're struggling with Spider. He's really, really strong. Who else should I call out? So Lysandra we talked about. Basilius Ronas, I think his name is. Has got an AoE stun. He's got ignore defense on one of his moves. And he's got a reduced turn meter on one of his moves. He's really good in spiders. I found this out doing a takeover. He was super strong. Nephril is my next MVP. He's got an AoE stun. He's got poison as well, and he's got an AOE reduced turn meter by 100%. When you're having troubles with those spiderlings, if they can't go, they cannot hurt you. He's fantastic in spiders. If you've got him and you're struggling with spiders, get him in your team. Even if you're going against negative affinity, he's going to be better than 90% of champions that you're thinking of putting in. He's insane. Razin, fantastic. Free-to-play friendly if you confuse him. 100% reduced turn meter. It's on a long cooldown, which is tough. But he also brings decreased defense and weaken as well. And he's defense-based, so you can keep him alive. Really good champion here. Ultimate Gaelic, I'm going to talk about in a second because he comes into my damage dealers. Man-Eater is next. I call him Ultimate Gaelic in this sheet. I don't know why I didn't change people's names. I did change their abilities though. So he does an AoE decrease attack. He does an unkillable buff on your team. And he steals the turn meter, which is why he's quite cool. So he'll reduce the turn meter by however much there is, and he'll take that on himself. So you can actually rotate his abilities really fast. Very good for spiders. Talked about Silo, talked about Tyrell. So let's move on to our damage dealers. So we've got two options for damage when you get to stage 15 plus. So we're past that AOE nuke now, and we're on single target damage. The two best ways to kill the spider are champions that have got max enemy HP abilities and champions that have got AOE HP burn. You choose one or the other. You could do an HP burn and have one of the max enemy HP champions, but only really the single target ones. Don't bring someone like a Royal Guard if you're trying to do an HP burn strat, because you're wasting the damage that the burn does. They don't go together. You can bring though a Cold Heart and an HP burn because she's single target damage. So you need to kind of think about your strategy, how you're going to do it. So who's in this lineup then? Arminger's here again. He does a lot of damage. I've got my one hitting for 500k on his A2 easily without crazy gear. Cold Heart is probably the MVP here. She can hit for 2 million on her A3 and she reduces turn meter with the same hit. She's insane for this ability. That's why so many people like her. Defiled Sinner is not somebody that I'd really come across before, but he has got an AoE hit. He's got a decreased defense, albeit it's a small version. And he does max enemy HP hit. I don't know how hard it is. Comment below. Who's using him? Is it hard? His kit seems like it's built for spiders, so let's hope it's a hard hit, but I don't know. I honestly don't know, but he does have the ability. Husk, I do have, and I have used. Brilliant champion for spiders if you don't have one of these other guys built up. AoE stun, it's 50% chance, so you're gonna stun half of the spiderlings, which is huge. He's HP based as a champion as well, so you can actually stack some HP on him and stop him from dying. And he does this enemy max HP hit, similar to Arminger. He hits pretty hard. It'll hit for about 750k versus a 2 million Cold Heart. So he's not as good as a Cold Heart. It's not as good as a Royal Guard. But I tell you what, when you're doing 750k hits, that still hurts a lot. So good champion for this. Royal Guard. One thing about Royal Guard. As soon as somebody gets a Royal Guard, they think, I'm going to put him in my team because he's going to carry me through spiders. If you're on stage 1 to 14, his hit does not hit that hard. It's good, but as you ramp up further through the stages, he is more and more valuable. Same with all these champions I'm talking about now, actually. This is stage 15 plus. If you try and use them 14 and less, actually they don't hit that hard and they won't do a great job for you. So you flip into these when you get to 15 plus, and then you'll start to see their damage spike higher and higher for each level that you get through. Royal Guard's a great champion. He hits all of the spiderlings as well as the main spider. He is quite squishy and you do need accuracy on him, but he is a great champion. Septimus is fantastic. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, you should go and check out Murder Inc.'s video on Septimus. He's using crazy gear, he's using a crazy lineup and setup, but he actually completely one-shots the spider with Septimus's ability. Very cool to watch, check it out. But yeah, he can do a job for you here. So all the way through, Septimus is a valuable champion in your team if you're looking for this max enemy HP style damage. So the other way to kill the spider is HP burn. This is hard to do because there's only a few champions in the game that can do it. 4 of them out of the 5 here are legendary champions. So again, there's a good chance you haven't got one of these, but if you have, make use of them. They're the best way to kill the spider. Ultimate Gaelic is fantastic at this. However, you need to set him up. You need someone who is faster in your team that will do increased attack for him. Otherwise, he wastes his moves and he does no burns. So you want at least 1, maybe 2 people in your team that are going to do increased attack, so that when he goes, he's always got increased attack up, and therefore he's always going to lay the HP burn. Stu Game has done some really good guides on him. Check them out. But he's really good. He will be your MVP if you get him working. Ignatius has got an irresistible HP burn, so you don't even need to build accuracy on him. He'll literally burn 100% of the enemies if booked. He also brings a provoke, so he can actually suck the damage into him. Very good champion. Probably top 3 champions in the game for Spider for me. Trunda does the enemy HP burn, but she only does it on stunned targets. She also tries to do an AOE stun before she goes with the HP burn. So if you've got somebody that goes before her, like a Husk, like a Miscreated Monster, somebody that puts stuns out, if she then goes with her HP burn, she'll put more HP burns around, and then all of a sudden you'll see that she does work. She's fantastic. If you don't have enough accuracy on her, then none of it's going to land. Yeah, so she's fantastic, but you have to set her up in the right way. Tyrant for me comes in as MVP for AOE HP burns, just because the rest of his kit is fantastic. So he brings ally protection, he brings increased defense for your team, he's got a passive that makes your team reduce damage when there's HP burn ticking away. So for me, he is the out and out best spider killer for HP burn strat. Not for speed, it's not the fastest one out there. Ignatius probably does it quicker, but he is probably the best in terms of a team setup. And then lastly, we've got Venus. I talked about her earlier. She's probably the best spider champion in the game. She brings AoE decreased defense, AoE weaken, and an AoE HP burn. You just need to keep her alive and she'll do all of the work herself. Fantastic champion. So that is how to beat the spider. I've done it in 1 part instead of 2. There's a lot of information there, guys. I'm hoping you've been able to take some of that in. Leave a comment below. Is this a helpful video? Is there anything which I've missed? Let me know if I help you beat the spider, and let's go and pull off its legs. This is Hell Hades, signing out.